Okay, it's telling me that I am live. Good evening, everyone. I know that it is a very busy day in the world. There's a lot going on. If you have been like me, you have been glued to your television screen for like 3, 4 days. I was just telling my guests that I noticed that people literally stopped reading my books. And I was like, what? I didn't think what's going on because I knew what was going on. Everybody was watching the elections and stuff. So it's been a very exciting day, a historic day. So I know that people are super busy. But if you are on Facebook, 5 people have jumped on. Hi, Mickey. I see some comments coming up. Mickey says hi. Hi, Mickey. And so a lot of these people I know, these are my friends from Facebook. I've not met Mickey, but Mickey and I communicate via Facebook frequently. Thanks. And Mickey, you will actually hear this accent a few times over because a couple of my guests are Bermudian. And so we're going to find out who everybody is. I'm going to introduce everyone momentarily, but we wanted to get started because I'm pretty excited. I see a few people jumping on. Feel free to say hi. And for my guests, please, as I mentioned, go ahead and share this on your pages so that your people can see it and ask questions. Because we're going to be talking about something that I think is really important tonight. The title of this live is called What Readers Want. And so if I have any authors who are jumping on this, I think it's important for us as writers when we're writing. Some people say write to market, some people do that, but at the end of the day, I think it's important for authors to write or at least be aware of what readers want. And so that's the purpose of this live. Like, what do the readers want? Like, what do they want to see? What do they love? What do they hate? Because that'll give us a clue. Okay, we need to stay away from this trope. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Mickey says he's of, and I'm hoping it's a he, Mickey. Please forgive me. Jamaican descent. Okay, yeah, man. No, I suck. I'm just going to say I suck at the Jamaican act. We have a very healthy and thriving Jamaican community in Bermuda. In fact, our premier is of Jamaican descent. Okay, so you know what we're talking about there. You know about the beaches and you know about all that. All right, so we got Mickey in the house. And you guys can feel free to mute your mics if you want to say hi. We have a few people on. But yeah, Mickey, it's yeah, man. That's about all I knew. I don't know. Anybody else know any Jamaican dialects?
No. Hi, password. What the blood?
Right, you know that one.
I know the curse words. You know what I mean?
All right. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get started with my theme music. So here we go. All right, so Brooklyn Knight is in the house for her fortnightly lives. I think we decided, Apopa, she's my co-host. We have Amisha here. I think we decided to call it the Brooklyn Night Show. Is that what we said?
Yes, it is the Brooklyn Night Show.
Okay, because we went for like 4 live and we didn't even know what it was. Right. So,
yes, the Brooklyn Night Show. It was the interview series, but there may be, we don't know what will happen on the Brooklyn Night Show, so that's why we had to make it more of a broader span, a wide span.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So before we get to talking to these readers, and as I said, I'm really excited about it. I just want to do a quick commercial for Brooklyn Knight Enterprises. So this is actually a business, a company that I started. It was birthed out of the pandemic, kind of, but we offer a full menu of services for aspiring writers. So the editing, the book covers, beta reading, publishing, whatever an aspiring writer or author needs, we have it at Brooklyn Knight Enterprises. And so you can go to the website, which is Brooklyn Knight Enterprises, as you see, well, BrooklynKnightEnterprises.com. And you can set up a free initial consult where we talk, find out what you need, what's feasible, and we get you published. The tagline or the mantra at BKE is from idea to published. We literally go from the idea in your head to published book. And I'm very excited and proud to have helped several authors to realize their publishing dreams. So that's BKE. That's out of the way. We already have some questions coming in. So Mickey, we're gonna jump into it and get some answers. So without further ado, I want to introduce these amazing readers. We have Mia Bean. Mia is going to be talking about, let me just get my, she's an avid reader and she's going to be talking about urban lit. So this is a really hot genre. And so we have her here because if you are an author, if you are listening, and this is the genre that you write in, we want to talk to Mia about what she likes and what the recipe that resonates with her when it comes to a really good book. She's widely read. In fact, I was telling the guest that Mia actually is my alpha reader. Any book that I have written, this is the lady who reads it first. She reads the raw and the dirty. And so she is just a phenomenal person, but also someone who has a really keen eye for a good book. So I'm excited to introduce her. Did you want to say anything real quick, Bean?
No, thank you. You make me sound so amazing.
You are amazing.
Thank
All right.
you.
And then next we have Miss Kat, who is an avid romance reader. Now, when I asked Miss Kat, like, how did you even see like this? And she said she saw it on Facebook. One of her friends had it. And so she messaged me and was like, I would love to be a part of this. She is widely read and her genre of choice is romance. So Miss Kat, go ahead and introduce yourself to the viewers.
Hey everyone, I do love romance and I love different genres of romance. So there's dark romance, there's reverse harem, there's erotica, aka smut books. So I read them all. I read the paranormal, I read everything. So I'm very reversed in all of those. And I know the real hot topic right now is reverse harem because, with those stories, you get a lot of hot men with one woman. Like, who doesn't want that, in real life? So so those are really good genres, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about them. And hope we have fun tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm so glad you brought up that reverse harem piece because, like you said, it is. I mean, I know I've been publishing for 2 years. A year in, it was trending heavy. And I mentioned like writing to market. Like, so there were some people who noticed like reverse harem was hot and they were jumping on it. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's definitely something that we can talk about. Because yeah, we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then finally we have Miss Janaea Painter, who is an avid, I put romantic suspense, but she's gonna talk about suspense. If romance gets in there, then it is what it is. But Janaea, go ahead and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I love reading, period. And so I love read everything. But yeah, suspense is one of my favorite genres. I'm excited to talk about it tonight.
All right, awesome. And I'm gonna now, Janaea, she is a woman of many talents. She not only is she one of my colleagues, so for those who don't know, by day I am a counselor in the school system at the public school system in Bermuda. Janaea is one of my colleagues because she is also a counselor in the public school system in Bermuda. But not only that, she is a crochet fanatic, and I am too. Like, there were times we were supposed to be talking about theoretical orientations, and I was asking her about different stitches. So Janaea, welcome. Thank you so very much. And then we have Misha, who is my co-host. The Misha shares up. She asks questions that perhaps I didn't think about and just kind of takes the conversation to another level. All right, so we're going to begin. It's very conversational. Tell me, guys, like, for how long have you been reading? So I want to preface that question with, there are people who read, but there are people who read. And I know Mia, I called her a whale reader one time, and she was like, what in the world is that? But you guys are like whale readers, meaning you consume a lot of books. When did you, for how long have you been reading? And tell me more, tell us more about what books do for you as individuals.
Are we going in
Yeah, we
order?
can just get on the line.
Okay, so I began to read more avidly once I finished college, because obviously college takes up a lot of time. I did read some in college as well, but at that time I was going up to Bears Lake and getting a book from Barnes and Noble, reading it and returning it, because college student, I didn't have money. And I was returning it and getting another book, and then I go home and then I return that book. So that's how I was doing it back then, because that was at a time of paper books. And so that might have been a book a week, if that. But then obviously when college ended and I was working like as a summer student, those jobs are not very intense in certain areas. So I found myself with a lot of free time. So I would take books with me to work, because I was working on the front desk in an office that didn't have a lot of traffic. So I had a lot of time on my hands. So I'm like, well, why am I sitting here doing nothing? So I would read. And it started with, actually, I read all kinds of books in college, but then what reignited my avid readership would be, I think I read something by Zane, I want to say. And then I kicked in again to read multiple books a week and stuff like that. And then it got expensive, because again, it was still paper books at that time. And eventually with the advent of Kindle Unlimited, it's just become incessant at this point. It's bad.
Wow.
And so Kindle Unlimited is actually what kind of pushed me to read more urban literature. Like you had actually just asked me what my favorite book is. My favorite book is actually Small Great Things by J.D. Peacock, but that's not urban literature at all. It's not even close. But I do read urban literature because obviously it's, well, not free, but it's free on Kindle Unlimited. And Kindle Unlimited actually exposes you to a lot of books that you probably wouldn't actually read, because you can read it for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in a book club as well. And in the book club, we read urban lit. It's called Urban Lit Chicks. So that's all we read in this particular book club. And then we suggest books as well. So you want to read all these suggestions. So that's why I tend to gravitate towards urban lit, because it's also very casual reading. Mm-hmm. It's not very intense. It doesn't require a lot of attention. It doesn't require a lot of intensity. So that's what's good about it. You can read it very easily, but it doesn't change the fact that you do still have demands and expectations as a reader of urban lit, despite its casual nature. So I'll stop there.
Okay. All right, Kat, how did you get into reading, or for how long have you been reading?
I've been reading since I was 14. I'm 27 now. So I've been reading a long time, and it was my grandma who got me into reading historical romances. Those were my first books from Harlan Quinn, and the cowboys and that sort of thing. So she was that's when I was like safe reading, and now it's like a whole other genre. But I got into those with her. We would sit and read, or she'll because she had a really big collection, or she'll be like, "Hey, come over." And my nickname is Mooney. So she'd be like, "Hey, come over, Mooney." And I got some books, and we'll read together. So it was like our thing that we did together. And so from then on, I've just been reading. And I consume a lot of books. I can read. Back in the day, I used to read 2 or 3 books in a week. Sometimes in a day, because I read really fast. So I can read through a book pretty quickly. So by then, I used to consume a lot of books. And even now, what she said with Kindle Unlimited, you can read so many books. And sometimes I read 2 or 3 in a day. I spend all night reading sometimes. So so I very much love romance, and I've been doing it a long time. And I even get into other genres like urban literature and things like that, and the harem. And I don't really do suspense as much, but I do read like Nicholas Sparks and things like that. He's like a different type of romance. So I try to expand my, readership, but sometimes, you just get caught up in what you prefer. You just kind of like go full dose in it. So, but I do try to expand. If you guys have any recommendations for your different genres, please like let me know, because I'm always looking to read other books.
And that's one of my questions, what do you guys recommend? But I think I love that this was something that really began with as a tradition with your grandma, or as something that you guys used to build relationship and nurture, that's amazing. That's really, really cool. So thank you for sharing that. So Janae, what about you?
I guess I would say I've always been a reader. Like, in high school, I was that kid that walked around with a book. In between classes, I had a book. I could walk around reading my book, and like I could still get where I was going. I didn't fall, I didn't flop or anything like that. I had a rhythm and a way of doing things. So I've always been an avid reader. And then, like Nia said, when you're in college, it kind of slows down because you got to read articles and all that kind of stuff for school. And then when I was in Canada, I discovered, because like me, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I discovered the joys of the public library. And I just got myself a library card and I got back into reading. And the area where I was, you can just like because like all the libraries were connected in the region. So like if you couldn't find a book, you could just put an order in and you got the book that you wanted. And so that's when I started reading a lot of suspense, because I started reading Walter Mosley. I was just trying to find someone of color. So, and I just happened upon Walter Mosley, and then I started reading like all of his books. And then it just went from there. That's how I kind of like, I guess, happened upon suspense, because I hadn't really read a lot of suspense until then. And then I happened upon his books, and then it was like, that was it. That was my...
Oh, okay. So what is it about these reading that resonates with you? So some people watch TV, some people watch Netflix, some people, do different things, but why is it so kind of like, why is it so not important? I'm thinking of the word addiction, but I'm trying to think of something akin to how drawn you guys are to books. What is it about immersing yourself in these worlds that really gets to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it's like an escape. We have so much obligation and worries in the world. Like, I love just delving in a book and just getting lost in their drama. Like, I love having somebody else's drama to like focus on instead of like my own. Like, so for me, it's just getting lost for like a few hours a day and just like maybe helping them solve their drama, or being like, okay, my life isn't that bad because theirs is way worse than this book. So it's just like just an escape for me. And it's a fun escape, when you read different genres like urban lit. I love the whole like hood thing and the guns and the dramas and stuff like that. I love getting lost in that. Then I come to romance, and I love the whole, maybe sweep off my feet, or maybe they kidnap her or something. I don't know. But like, it's just like different things. It just gets you away from your daily job.
Yeah.
Like that's an escape. I love it.
Awesome.
I think.
Go
ahead, Mia.
Sorry. I would agree with Kat, and as far as it being an escape, and I'm a person, it has to be happily ever after. If somebody dies in the end, you're canceled. Like I don't have time for that. That's not the world. The world is toxic enough. I don't need to read about toxicity. But that's the reason too. Like and I watch TV, but for some reason reading's better, because you can kind of, and a book that's well written is better than TV. So when a book doesn't translate to creating an entire world in your mind, then that's the problem. There's a problem. If I can't see a character, I can't feel a character, I can't identify with a character, then that means the character's not well developed. It's simple. And it's not even about oh, that's just your opinion. No, I don't even know who this guy is. Like, I don't even, what does he look like? I can't even picture him. I can't, even if you don't go into the, oh, he's 6'4", blah, 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 I want to be able to see who it is so that I can create this narrative in my, like, where I can see it as well as read it. And so it does give you a separation from work because, my work is very intense, from previously working with us working together, Tish. It's like, it's a lot. And so, it's the heavier, darker side of Bermuda. And it's always good to be able to just go somewhere completely different because Urban Lit is so far left from our everyday existence. We don't even know these kinds of people personally. So it makes it's quite entertaining. And I guess that's where, why we read that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with what the other lady said in that it is an escape. But one of the things when I tried to explain this years ago to my mom about reading and kind of like addiction, and I was just saying like I think I am a person who like just gets enthralled in things, and so for me, I craft. So I like knit and crochet, like you say, Letitia. So that's like my calm. Like it brings me down. I'm like, USA. And then reading is like my intense. It's like my high. Because like it just takes you to a different place and a different space. And I heard what people are saying about like TV and people like really watch TV and that kind of thing. But it's not the same as like a book. Like a book, it just transforms you. You can, it's like you don't leave your house, but you're in a whole different space, a whole different environment. And then the book is truly well written, so much so that you can't put it down. Like there's no greater feeling. Well, for me anyway, like it's just such a great feeling to just be like, what happened? That's what happened. That's what happened.
And I hope like the people watching, like you guys' passion is like coming through, and it's a testament to like you've spoken to some of the things that anybody watching who is a writer, you've touched on some things that are important for writers to take away, that characters must be developed, that it must be well written. And even for me, when I started writing, I didn't read as much as I read now. And they used to say writers are also readers. And I didn't really understand that. But now I do. And I agree. It's better if you try to compare it to watching TV, there's something that happens in your brain. It's like you have to create, like the authors put the words on the page. But if it's well done, it still leaves room for the reader to create part of it. And it really does transport you away from where you are to the world that has been created. So it really is an amazing experience. And I'm glad that you guys have started to talk about what the specifics of what makes a good read. So let's get a bit into your actual genres. So let's go with Kat first. So Kat, in romance, are there any particular tropes that you really enjoy?
I like the alpha males. Like I like when they come out and they're like big and strong, and not even like physically, just like the strength that they have, that they come through the pages, that they're like all about their women, they protect them to the end. Like I love that because I think like personally, that's what I look for in a man. Like I want to be like protected. I want that man to like. Sometimes in the stories are like over the top a little bit, but like the sentiment is there. Like you want to feel safe. You want to be like with your man, and you want that to shine through. And then I think it's more in like their actions versus their words. So like when they actually show that they are like caring, like maybe they jump in front of a bullet for their woman, or maybe they're like doing something romantic, because sometimes like the guys are like assholes, so like when they show that romantic side, it's like, oh, okay, like they can be that romantic guy. They can do like a dinner, or they can like go out of their comfort zone. Like maybe, because I read biker romance, that too. And they are like have their cuts on, and they have their own like club whores and all that stuff. But when they like find their women, they like, and they show that side, like they maybe don like regular jeans and shirt without the cut. Maybe they take them to a dinner, So showing that sensitive side in the story where it's like about a lot of alphas is really something that I gravitate towards in reading. And I love an alpha man. Like you know, even if they have like a nerdy alpha man and, you know, whatever, but I just like that alpha intake. Like, that's my go-to when I read a book. Like, if that's what I see in the off, that's where I'm going. If my book is sold, like, I'm buying it.
Yeah, and I love a romance alpha man. Like, I was working with an author recently, and they were picking a book cover, and I was like, the guy is not alpha. Like,
Yeah.
you know, because, and so that's another question I have about book covers. But alpha man, so you're saying that genre or that trope is a go-to for you. All right.
That is a go-to for me. Like, if the cover looks like that and I read the back of the book, I'm like, I'm sold. Like, cause I like an alpha man. Like, I want a man who's gonna like take no shit, like take no crap, you know, like tell his woman what it is, but also respects her, you know, like there has to be a level of respect. And I've read a lot of books for some of them, like they just do like dumb stuff like all the time, like cheating and all that stuff. I don't like all that type of stuff sometimes, but like when they can show their side and they can like, you know, really come through on the pages, and that I'm sold. Like, that's a well developed alpha male character for me.
Yes. And just for as a side note, and for any authors watching, for romance, an HEA or an HFN is a must. You cannot end the book without an HEA, like Mia said.
You have to have that. Like, that's what we look for. And the title has it happily ever after.
Exactly. Bean, what are the tropes that you like in urban lit?
Interestingly enough,
I'm not familiar with urban lit. Tell us what some of the tropes are in urban lit.
Well, the thing about urban lit, one, I would say that the books that I read are not for any specific reason. It's typically someone will recommend it, and I say, okay, I'll read it. So there's no real anything specific what makes me read these books. Sometimes the author will come up because there are like Facebook groups that you can be in, and they'll be like, oh, free books below, and you click on it and you get the free book. So I'll read it because it's free. So I don't really, and also I'm the type of reader, I just let your book be what it is. Like, so I don't read books with expectations. If you wrote it, that's what you wanted to write, but I don't have to like it. So that, and funny enough, I also have a thing where I have to finish it.
Okay.
No matter how bad it is. Mind you, there is one or two that I haven't, and I was like, I can't do this. And typically those are the books that where the author has the characters talking to me. I can't take it.
Hey, God.
I'll tell you more about me in the next chapter. What is that? No, stop.
Oh my God. To piggyback off that, I don't like when they do that either, because it's like, and they're like, oh, let's get back into the story. And it's like, well, why don't we stop to do this?
So yeah, so that's one thing that definitely tells me. So it's nothing. There isn't anything special about it that draws me in. So I can't even give you. But they do have a lot of alpha males in it as well, and I think the draw for some people is, I mean, you have these alpha males are typically drug kingpins or drug lords or gang members or whatever the hell they are. Either way, they always got a lot of money. So typically it's these rough around the edges guys who step outside of that to create happiness with a woman. Typically, that's usually where the story is.
Okay.
Or it's a very straight-laced woman, like a nurse or something like that, who's walking on the street minding her business, and some guy with a grill comes up to her, and she is giving him the time of day, but then he has to show her who he really is so that she can see him, and then all of a sudden it's like this situation where it's this, this girl who you would never put with this guy, but when he's with her, he's this special, soft-spoken type person. Mm-hmm. And then with everybody else is like this hard-nosed criminal. You're just like, sometimes it's, for me, is very unrealistic. But like I said, some stories have to be really, really well developed like I have a few favorites in urban lit, like authors that write really, really well. And those people, the minute they put something out, I will read it. Others, like I just gave a book 2 stars the other day and left a review because I was so disgusted. I was like, no. I said, I read all this, you're going to hear from me. Like, it was so awful. But nevertheless, and typically urban lit has issues with editing. That is a consistent theme in urban lit, editing.
Yeah.
And I myself and some of the my friends in our book club, we call the urban lit genre the high school dropout employment plan, because it's like, how did you write this? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like two, basic grammar, like two and two, they, there and there, then and then, like stuff that you definitely learned. Sure.
Can I ask you something, Mia? Do you think that the authors of urban lit are actually trying to write urban? Do you think the understanding of what urban
I
actually
think they just don't
is
know.
misunderstood?
I just think it's the level of it.
So that's a, so are you then saying that most of the urban lit
Definitely.
authors
But the
are
poor
urban?
And it's
So
unfortunate because I think
Okay.
the genre it's a legitimate genre, and it's, you know, has very, like that storyline that you mentioned of, you
it has
know,
a very broad base. But
right.
if you go in any of the groups for like urban literature books, like it's a group on Facebook called Bookies, that is a consistent complaint. Grammar, stuff like that. And one time I remember this book, it was so bad. I like, because you know how when you go into Kindle, you can make changes and make suggested and it sends it. I edited this entire book. It took me like 4 days to read this book because I was editing the whole book. I was like, this is so bad. I need to fix this.
Wow.
But I think I think it's a matter of they may not have the funds for a proper editor. However, I feel like it's stuff that if you just read it over yourself, you would have seen it. But I think editing is the issue. And I think because a lot of the books are written by urban people who are sometimes not particularly educated, they don't have the resources to, you know, and obviously you got to build up your fan base. You have to earn money, and eventually what you do, and you see those authors grow, and you see them, you know, develop, and certain authors that are with publishing houses, you know, those publishing houses do better with editing, for example.
And so growth is, to me, would be the most important thing, because I guess if you read my first or second book to where I am now, you would see, oh wow, you know, instances of growth. But for any author watching, you know, the readers have again highlighted editing. And we're not saying you need to spend $1 million, but at the very least, you need to take the self-editing process very seriously, you know, because I think that's one of the pet peeves of readers. If you have a very poorly edited book, no matter the genre, I mean, especially so we're talking about indie authors and self-published authors, that's something that we as authors need to remember. So, Janaea, what tropes do you really enjoy?
I just had one question to piggyback off the urban lit. I also think it's about like the rushing, because they always, you know, a lot of urban lit, there are a lot of series. So I think like they get a push to kind of push these series out, or their fan base kind of like gets upset with them if they don't have, if they like wait a long time between the series. I think that's also one of the things that they rush the editing because they want to get the series out and out and out. And it's like, you guys have to kind of like take your time to really read your books, you know, all because the reader wants it out now doesn't mean you have to do that. But I know a lot of them are indie, so they have to feel like they have to keep their readers on one, you know, so they have to keep them pushing out. So I think that's also another reason why the editing could be.
That's
a very good point. And I would suggest to people, and even in discussing it with Letitia, I was like, have the books pretty much finished before you let out the first one. So that way the pressure isn't there for you. So when you release book 1, book 2 and 3 are practically done. So you have that 2-week, 3-week, 1-month window that you want to release in, where literally all you have to do is editing and polishing. Because what happens is when authors put under so much pressure to get the next book out, the rushing, they're not letting the characters speak to them.
Mhm.
And they just want to, and then sometimes some books, it didn't need to be 3 and 4 books. You could have wrote that in one book. Why are you really
Oh my God, yes, I agree. I agree.
Oh my gosh. I gotta tell you, okay, I don't want to call out anybody, but I read this book and I read it because I was in this book group. And it was supposed to be a romantic suspense. I know you haven't asked about things that you don't like, but oh my gosh. How are you gonna tell me the name of the bad guy and who the bad guy is in the middle of the book? I'm still got the rest of the book to read. Like, oh my gosh. And I just couldn't believe it. I was so irritated. I was like, I don't want to read the rest of this book. No, I already know how it ends. And sure enough, I could predict the whole ending, and I was irritated. Because I had to read the book for the book club. Like, I felt obligated, but the bad book was horrible. Oh, God, it was horrible. So, for me,
So then, you've led us into the next question there. What do you hate? So you hate.
I really like books, like, because I really love suspense. I really like books. I like to arrive at the crux, like just after the author or just as the author's getting there. Like, I love that kind of thing. Or like feeling like I outsmarted them because I got there just before the main character did. And I'm like, yes, I'm a ninja. I'm so smart. But I really love, and so my favorite author is Dorothy Coomson. She writes amazing, and she writes a lot of her suspenses and it's like philosophical. So I really like. Okay, The Rose Petal Beach. That's like my favorite book because, and the premise of it is like, what would you do if your best friend accused your husband of sexual harassment? And that's kind of the basis of the book. And then your friend dies.
Wow.
What? Yeah, it's so good. It's such a good book. But anyway, I love like that, almost like philosophical suspense, like where it's like, it's pulling at you and bringing stuff out of you that you hadn't even thought of. Like, another really good suspense book that's like that is 40 Acres by Jane Alexander Smith. Like, I was reading it and it's like, okay, I gotta put it down, because my heart was going like this the whole time. And so I was like, okay, put it down, okay, pick it back up, okay, pick it back down. So, I like books that make me do that. Like,
awesome. And I think even me listening to you guys as a writer, I'm like, oh my God, just seeing the passion that happens when readers read books, it's just like, wow. So I don't know if anybody else that's looking and is an author, this is what we want. Like, we want our readers to respond like this to our stuff. Kat, what do you hate?
I'm mute, sorry. Okay, so what do I hate in romance? Let's see. So a lot of romances that I read, they're mostly standalones, which I love. But if they do have series, I don't know. Sometimes when you come back to a book, especially if it's like a long wait, which I appreciate because I want them to take their time. But sometimes if you come back from a romance, it's like, I know, I kind of feel like I need to like reset. Like, sometimes they add in characters or plots that kind of don't sit well with the first one for me. So it's like making it consistent, like sometimes I'm reading, I'm like, well, why do we throw that in there? Or like, you know what I'm saying? So like, so if you do like a series in romance, like, I think just kind of being consistent with it and not adding too much, outside forces. Because sometimes if I read certain romances, like when I read biker romances, they have like, what's it called? They have rivalries with other clubs and things like that. So sometimes like bringing in like an outside force that wasn't like, I guess, mentioned in the first book kind of throws me. But other than that, I don't know, romances are pretty solid when it comes to contemporary. When you get more to like the erotic and smut books, those are pretty fast paced, all about sex. So sometimes some authors don't really develop the storyline. They just kind of get into the wham bam. So some of those books, I don't take them with like, I take them with a grain of salt. Is I just need like a really like hot book. I'm like, okay, I'll read it. But if I'm looking for like a really like strong plot and story, then I go to like reverse harem or paranormal or like contemporary romances. But I think I would love to see what erotic books or smut books like, kind of like a good storyline. Like
Yeah.
Alexa Riley, their author that's all they write is like erotic books, smut books, but their storylines are pretty solid. There's other ones like other authors I've seen that try to imitate them, but they just are all about the the sex, and it's not like you can watch that on porn or something, So like if you want like storyline, a good story base. So if you're gonna do like a short story, make sure you kind of have like the basis for a story plot. Don't make it all be about sex or whatever. Like we want to see when they got together, to the end, a happy romance, not like they got together here and they're sleeping here in chapter 2, and then like somebody comes to chapter 3 and messes up the romance, and then chapter 4, what I'm saying? Like, let's have it be consistent, So that's one of the things with short stories. You gotta kind of make sure you're consistent with the storyline. You can't just and because you want to finish it in like 10 chapters or something, but you got to make sure we kind of know where we're going. And Harlequin are they're kind of good for like they're not that short, maybe like 20 chapters, but they're kind of good with that like build up, So if you're gonna do that, just make sure it has a build up. Otherwise, romance is pretty solid when it comes to like the troops and things like that. They're pretty solid with their intake on it. But just if you're gonna do short stories, make sure you kind of build up.
Just for defense of genre romance.
Yeah.
There's a difference between erotica and erotic romance. Like the erotica would be the smart.
Yeah, those are smart books.
But the erotic romance, which is my genre,
yeah,
there is a definite storyline.
Yeah, that's a contemporary.
Right. Yeah. Just that when our characters get it on, you're in the room while they're doing it.
Yeah. Those are the ones that are like, I like that. Those are like the build up to that part, like when you kind of see them versus me, maybe there's like some drama, maybe she doesn't really want him, he weighs her down, and then we get to like the big scene. Like in erotic, the short books, you get the meaty, and I'm not bashing anybody. You have sex on a first night, okay, cool, that's fine. But like, let's see some build up from them, from that one night stand or something, not just, like what happened to the middle of the story, middle of the part. So yeah, there's a big difference between the smut books and the contemporary with the erotic in there. Just make sure you have like, because I like reading smut books. Like if I need a short, little thing, I'm waiting for something to happen, I'm in like a doctor's office and I want like a short read, I'm fine with that. Just I want to see like a build up, I want to see like the characters fall in love or have their drama, not just fast paced. Yeah. Why did I pay for this book,
Yeah. Could be you hate no editing. Anything else you hate about urban lit? Or that you don't, not that, but that you prefer not to see.
Oh, I could go on, but some specific things that really grind my gears is these books are about people who tend to be rich. I wouldn't say wealthy because they're drug dealers, so they're rich. And they'll be like, oh, he has millions of dollars or billions of dollars. And I'm like, okay. It's like, and the next thing you know, in the book, she's like, oh yeah, as I was waiting in the Delta terminal, if you got billions of dollars, why are you flying commercial? Like, it's little things that they just don't know. So I'm like, and I think it's because the type of person that's reading it, you're not used to anything. So you think saying that someone's flying first class is aligning with someone being a millionaire. Bruh, if I'm got millions or billions of dollars, I am going on a private jet. Like, and so little stuff like that. So I read a book too the other day where he was saying, she's like, oh, I wanted to, wear my jewelry to match her swag. She had on a silver dress, so I wore my silver watch. Why is your watch not platinum? Aren't you rich? So little things like that where you can tell it's because of lack of research. And so the thing is if your tax bracket doesn't allow you to experience these things, talk to someone whose tax bracket does, so that they can help you to understand what definitely reflects wealth or what Mickey, it's defined by African American literature typically, and it usually takes the frame of gang type drug dealers shooting, that type of stuff. Sometimes urban lit also incorporates African American romance as well. But yeah, so anyway, let me get back to my point. So yeah, and then there's other book. So he's like, oh yeah, I wanted to upgrade her. She had a 2013 Honda Civic or Hyundai Accent or whatever the kind of car it was. He's like, I got a 2020 model. Are you really rich going to Honda dealerships? Boy, if you don't go get me a Lexus, oh my gracious. So that type of thing. So it's just like if you want to talk about people being wealthy and people being rich, you need to understand what wealth and rich gets you.
Yeah.
You can't, it just doesn't make sense. The conversation needs to be consistent. So I'm not even wealthy, but I'm just like, why would she be shopping in Rainbow with Louboutins? That didn't even make no sense.
So, Mia, I have a question for you. So, like, when it comes to urban lit, how do you feel about? Because I read an author and she always kind of doubles back from the first book. So she'll be like, after this what happened last time, and then she'll go into like the present story. How do you feel about that? Because I don't like that. I don't want to read what happened last book. I already did that.
I think that doing it for page reads. I understanding that I became aware of how it works from Letitia. But why, like, because you're talking about how the book will start with like 3 chapters from the last book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they do it for page reads. I think they do. You got to read those 3 chapters again, so they're getting 30 pages of reads that you don't need to read because you literally just finished the book. So I don't like that either. That irritates me because I feel like, no, I only got 89 pages of book because you just spent 40 pages.
Yeah, I'm like, I already know. Like, I just finished it. I know exactly what happened. I don't need this. I have to skip it.
And I also, similar to what Kat was saying, if you're gonna write a series, do not have such a long gap between the books.
Mm-hmm.
People forget, and then you don't get the people, the loyalty. Urban literature readers, we are not loyal. We're not loyal. We will read anybody who entertains us. So mind you, I am loyal to a couple of authors. There's a few in urban lit that I do read consistently. One that I recently came, I hate prologues. But anyway, we'll get back to that. Like, don't tell me anything. Just start the book in a way that that pulls people in. Like, when people have prologues, particularly the prologues that are like the last chapter of the book, that drives me nuts. And
I've heard that about prologues. I actually stopped using them.
Hate them.
Early books. I don't know if it was because of Mia, and as I mentioned, if for anybody, Mia's my alpha reader. Nothing I write goes out without her seeing it. I don't know if she was the one who told me just start the book, but
it was me.
But that's a consensus among readers. Many readers that they hate prologues. Just start the book.
I think it depends. I've read like romance. I've read some prologues which are really good, but I think it just depends on like the type of book. Like there's an author. She writes. Let me see. Remember her name. Jamie Begley, and she writes biker romance. She has like a lot of there's a lot long series, like different chapters, but she does prologues, and I think it's because like she has such a tangled web of different characters that it kind of helps the reader kind of outlines them, because there's like the biker club, and there's like maybe 15 or something men, and they each have their own book, and there's like the women biker club. So she it does it to kind of help tie in a timeline. So for that, I would say if you have such a big series that is like that, using a prologue kind of helps your readers, help them focus on like maybe what this book is about, this specific character, or maybe just tying in different characters. So I think it depends. Like for urban lit, yeah, I wouldn't want to prologue. We kind of know the genre that you guys write in. We're good.
Exactly. We know who's gonna meet the girl.
I agree.
Janae, what are your thoughts on prologues?
I actually don't mind a prologue as long as the prologue is not
Mhm.
long. Like I hate these long. Like if it might as well be a chapter, then just
Yeah.
start chapter
That
one.
too, yes.
But I
Yeah.
don't mind. I don't mind a prologue that like gets you intense. So like, I can't think of the person. I can't think of the author's name. He's a suspense author, and oh, I know. I read this book a couple of years ago called Darling, and the prologue was like a short
Hate that.
excerpt of like the middle of the book, or not even. It wasn't even like the middle of the book, but it was just like I can't believe this is happening, blah, blah, blah. It was like less than one page. It was like, but I was like, oh, shoot,
Okay, I
let
like
me get
those.
there. Like,
I
I
do
just
like
wanted
those. I
to see
agree.
what happened.
See,
Like,
but in
how
my
did you
mind, I'm
get
like,
to
what is
this
the
place?
synopsis of the book
So,
for if
all
you're
of
gonna
this,
do that? Like,
I
and I
think
see Vicky's point. If the story is written well, you don't need to set the mood. You don't like if particularly like fiction. I don't think fiction. It's sometimes they're done very well, particularly if a
yeah.
book has a lot of like where they are now has to do with the history. Like, so if someone uses a prologue to tell a story from like 15, 20 years ago, like when their mom died, whatever, and then it starts present day, okay, I get it. It makes sense. But generally, prologues, no, just don't. Just
Yeah, I
let it
think it
read
depends.
from-
but
Like,
since we're talking about logs, can I just say that I hate epilogues? Like, I hate those things at the tail end. Like, oh my gosh, end the book. Like, we're not going back. Like, come on, like that. I hate that.
So
I
that's
hate
funny because
that.
in a couple of my reviews, I've had reviewers, oh, I wish I could find out when they had a baby, or like some stuff that happened, like the book is over, but some people, they want to know what happened to them 5 years later. So
Mind you,
I
I
kind of like
hate
those.
those, but I hate that. Like, I don't want to know what happened
mind
5 years
you,
later because, see, I
that could
work
be another
I
book.
work in mental health, so in my head, I'm like, of course, it's not perfect 5 years later, so I don't really care. Like, I wish the story to end and everybody's happy and that's and Rice said, well, however they end, that's the way they end. I don't need 5 years later. I don't care about
I'm on
5
the fence. I kind of like those. I like those
Oh,
five.
look at
And
this.
I think it depends
Look
on
at
certain books. I don't like it with every book, but I think like I like if a book was really really good and they have a part that's like 5 years and they have like 2 or 3 kids or something, then like I'm
Yeah,
like okay yay.
yeah,
But
that's
like
nice. I don't mind
yeah,
that.
but I think like if you do it like that, if you put it like where we see the happier ending, then cool. But if you're putting it like that and you say something that's out of pocket, and no, we don't we don't want that.
Yeah, I don't
Prologue.
like an epilogue. I don't.
let me just circle back to what Mickey said. And Mia, she kind of spoke to it. I'll just put his comment back up. So Mickey, and this, I guess, he's saying that prologues help to set the mood, and Mia's response was, if you write well, the mood sets it. It sets it. And so that's something, again, from an author's perspective. And again, the point of this was to interview readers to find out what they like and why they don't like it. This is telling me, that response from that reader is telling me that they don't want, it's kind of like you're cheating. If I have to write an epilogue to set the mood, I should be able to create the mood within the 300 pages that I'm writing. So just something to think about when we're thinking about prologues. And then Naomi said she doesn't read books without epilogues.
I don't
So
mind
Wait, why?
epilogues, though. I don't. Prologues irritate me, but epilogues, that doesn't matter to me. I'm at the
Yeah,
end.
those are hit and miss.
Yeah,
I feel like if the book is over, the book is over, and I love books that leave
She's like
me.
it's done.
I
Don't
like
do
books
anymore.
that leave me with like a
it sounds
little.
like Linnea has separation anxiety, so she doesn't really.
And so
She
like
doesn't cut the cord.
so like that book I was telling about Dwayne Alexander Smith. I'm not gonna tell you how he ends, but I read the book and I was at the end and I was like, you owe me 200 pages. I love that feeling. I love that feeling. Like it's just at the end and I'm like, oh my god, what happens next? You would have put an epilogue that said that the people were married and they ended up having a children, then I would know how the story like ended. But I just still had a hook and like enjoyed it. Like I still was like, ooh, you still have that feeling. So I feel like an epilogue doesn't leave you with that like ooh feeling, and I like that feeling. And to answer your question earlier about tropes that I don't like, one thing that if there are authors listening, one of my biggest pet peeves, it's the hugest pet peeve that I hear. But if you do anything in mental health, and because suspense, a lot of suspense deals with a lot of mental health issues, mental health that is described really badly makes me want to throw a book. And,
I mean,
especially
anything,
that are
right?
like mislabeled or
Yeah.
things that will like never happen, like unethical things and stories. I'm just like, that could not, like, why wouldn't you report him to the review board? Like, you can't do that. People can't do that. Like, so all that kind of stuff, like people sleeping with their clients in order to get at the deeper seated issues. Like, I read a book that had that. I mean,
That's you need like good research.
like
Like
that.
you need to go ask somebody.
Yeah, like
That
that.
needs good research.
That's a theme. So again, the authors that are listening, research. It's so important.
Mhm.
Like one of my favorite authors, like I one-click her stuff, Kenya Wright. I just one-click it. She writes Russian mafia romance.
Yes, I know her. I read her books.
Oh God. Okay. But one thing, I asked her because she actually had me on her show a couple of weeks, so maybe a month or so ago. And I asked her about it. She calls it edutainment. So basically, the author must research so that as the reader is reading, they are reading factually and you know, because that's a peeve. Like I wrote 5 years, it was a mental health book. But obviously I'm a clinician, so it's going to be very accurate when it comes to the mental health. But I can't imagine reading about something that it's just 100% inaccurate. That would totally put me off, you know?
Let me tell you, Letitia, let me tell you. I read this book recently, and the crux of the book was that they had a hurricane in Miami in January. You can't have a hurricane in January. Hurricane season. I left the review. I left links. I left links to geographical and all that kind of.
Jenia, you were expecting them to wake up at the end from a dream, right?
One person at a time, so that but you guys, anybody watching, like, look at the passion. Like, these are readers. Stuff right here that will get on their nerves, and we're not writing for us. We are writing for them. So I mean, we're laughing and stuff, but this is really, really, really good stuff. Let me just put up Naomi's response because Amisha asked why does Naomi only read books that have epilogues, and Naomi said she needs to know what happens with the couple later on. She needs to know if they got engaged, got married, had kids, opened their business, made up with parents, etc. So she just wants to know after the story ends what ends up happening. So
so can I make a point to that? Is that as a writer, there are many types of readers that are all looking for different things, you know. And so some people like Jania, she doesn't really care about the ending because she knows that they'll probably break their knee tomorrow. So she knows there'll be problems later on. So she likes this. But then other people are like, oh my God, did they fall in love? Did they need that extra, like 5 years, I'm ready for the sequel because I'm an audiobook person. And so I was like the first person to buy that audiobook. And now I'm like, well, did these guys work out? Or did he return psychotic again? Does he now, you know, is he upset again? No. You know, now they're breaking up. Like, so I'm looking for that. So I just wonder to pose a question to you guys. Do you feel, because when I think of romance as more of a movie watcher than a reader, I think of like Lifetime. So do you think that maybe people are looking for that Lifetime romance that kind of gives you the words at the end that says, oh, Johnny went to jail and Jacob did this, you know what I mean? Are they maybe confusing what you should expect from a film with what you should expect from a book?
I think it's reasonable what Naomi said. I think it's reasonable to want to know because you've invested this time in reading this page, all these pages of this book, and even though it's almost happily ever after. It's not quite happily ever after. So she's like, well, I feel like I got cheated because I read all these pages and I still don't know. So I don't particularly mind epilogues because particularly for urban, because I don't need you to write another book, because that's what that could turn into, a fourth book, a fifth book, a sixth book, and after 3 books, I'm over it, to be honest.
Yeah, they. I have
But
to
there are some authors who do it so well. Like, I have to speak about this author, Millie Belizaire. She wrote a book called Fast. Read it. Like, maybe not Jania. She didn't read suspense, but Cat, read Fast by Millie
Okay.
Belizaire. It's so well done.
I like romance too, and I
He's
love
like, "Don't leave
suspense,
me."
but I read other things
Okay,
too.
well, read it, Danjania. But Fast was so well done, and it's a book that had you feeling a lot of different things,
Yeah.
a lot of different things. And then Jessica Watkins, she's a really good urban lit author, African American literature, because some people don't prefer the title urban to African American literature, I would say. Millie Belizaire, Jessica Watkins. I would read anything by them. Latavia, little rough around the edges, but she will have you belly laughing when you read her books. Like there's this one book where this guy, and these are consistently teasing, like, oh, the yellow bus just pulled up if you want it. Like, you're like, wow. Like, it's hilarious. Like, so she's funny. She's definitely funny. Bianca, like,
by Mickey, because Amisha was asking about Lifetime.
okay.
But Mickey was like, well, he addresses this to Kat, and he says, and Mickey, I do hope it's a he.
Practice you all this time.
Yeah. So, Kat, have you ever read a dark romance that was too dark? And
Yes.
what does too dark mean? So I don't know if Mickey wants to go ahead and what's too dark, but Kat, go ahead and answer that question.
So, I like a lot of dark stuff, but there was one book, and I can't remember the name, but I couldn't finish it. I was like maybe a few pages in, and the man was like, he killed a woman, but then he like drank her blood or something. It was horrible. It was like just like that over and over, and then he like, and I don't even know why he was killing this woman. It just started off like that, and I tried to give it a few more. It was over. So that was dark for me. I don't.
So, Kat, if it was a vampire book, would you have?
It was not a vampire book.
That's what I'm saying. If it was a vampire book, well, that's what I'm asking. If it was a vampire book, would you have?
It was not a vampire book. It was like a biker romance story.
Right. No. What I'm saying is, if it was a vampire book, would you have felt prepared?
Yes.
Like you expect that? Is that what really your irritation is, or?
No, I think it was like too soon in the book. It was like the first 2-3 pages, and it was like killed her and then like licked her blood or something. It was like there was like no, I wasn't prepared for that. Like I was like, let me get to the story, like let me see the drama, then let me see, because I read a lot of vampire, romances, and of course that's involved, like they suck your blood, whatever. But there's like a build up to that, or it's like in some weird romantic way that they build up to that. This was just like, I don't even know why he killed her. Like she was like a club whore, and he, they went to the basement or something, and then I don't even know like what. I don't even know what happened, you guys. I was like, I can't. So that was too dark for me, and I couldn't even finish it. And I left a review for that because that was horrible. It was not even like needed. So I don't think like that is an exception. But mostly dark romances, I'm all in. Like I've read romances where a woman got kidnapped, like her boyfriend sold her, and she got kidnapped, and the guy took he sold her because he needed to pay some kind of debt or something. So she got kidnapped, and the guy held her in his house, and he like tied her up, like kept her in the room, and eventually like she fell in love with him. It was like some it was like Beauty and the Beast stuff.
Brooklyn, what's the name of that kind of love? Now you fall in love.
I'm gonna have to think back and search through my books, and I can give it to you guys because it was a really good series.
Yeah.
We
I
get
read a dark romance for the first time, and it was disturbing, but it was well written. So I was like, okay,
Yeah, it's real.
okay,
Yeah, it's well written novels. Like you and I get pretty dark with my books. So like that's nothing compared to like. Do you guys watch that movie D&D Do Not, what was it?
no.
365 days or something? It's kind of like that. It's like a version of like 50 Shades, but like
I started.
other,
It was horrible.
did you?
I
It
It was
horrible.
kind of like that.
It wasn't good.
So
Okay, so
no, but
I'm gonna move forward because we're like
Yeah.
we're over an hour in. I'm cool, but I'm gonna let me ask this question: how important are book covers and blurbs for you guys?
Oh, please
Yeah,
let me
yeah.
say this. Okay, here's the thing. I have a thing about blurbs. Like I really do. So if the book blurb tells me the whole story, then I hate it because especially if I think I know the story. Like I don't want too much. I just want to know enough to like get me interested, but I don't want to feel like I know what's gonna happen in the story. And so like there was this one book by Sandy Jones. It's called um, The First Mistake, and um, and the cover is really good. It's beautiful. It's this woman. She's standing and she's standing, so you see her back and her fingers across behind her back, and so it's like the first mistake was trusting her. And so I really thought that I knew exactly what was happening with this book, but someone gave it to me, so I read it, and I didn't know. Like it was enough to make me think I knew, but I didn't know enough. Like, and then it was all these twists and turns. So I like a book blurb that is like gives you enough that you can kind of see where it's going, but doesn't give everything away. And the other thing is the book blurb has got to be accurate. Like I hate book blurbs that make it seem like it's about one thing and then the whole story is about something completely different. Like that's irritated. Like I read this one book and the summary was all about this court case, or the book blurb said that it was like about a court case, and then it wasn't anything about the court case. The court case was already decided because it happened at the beginning of the story. Oh, I was so annoyed. I read the book, I finished the book, but I was annoyed because that's not what the book blurb said it was about.
Okay,
So,
Mickey, I put Mickey's question up. We're gonna come to that.
Yes.
yes.
Wait, don't answer him yet. Don't answer Mickey. Mickey. But it's my fault because I put it up. So, buddy, Mickey. Mickey, we're coming back. Tell you guys, blurbs. What are your thoughts about blurbs?
Blurbs. This urban, I have very low expectations. Let me just say that. But I do read them, and with hopes that it, again, like Jania said, that it doesn't tell me too much. Because if it tells me too much, I feel like I'm going to figure it out. And I don't want to figure it out because I kind of sort of already know what's going to happen anyway because of the type of genre it is, right? So I typically may not even read a book blurb. My go-to decision maker for reading books is how many stars and reviews it has on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have over 100 plus 5-star reviews, I'll read it.
Okay. So
it doesn't even matter what it's about. If you have 100 5-star reviews, I will read it. Like if there's one urban / African American literature book, When My Soul Met a Thug, probably about 700 5-star reviews. You all should read that one too.
But what was
the title? Sounds hot.
When My Soul Met a Thug.
Oh, wow.
That's hot. That sounds hot.
Kat, what do you think about blurbs?
I like them with I guess certain books. Like I like them for African American literature books, because like when they're like not finished writing them, like I guess the blurbs for me, like when I have a bunch of author friends on like Facebook, so when they like are doing a sneak peek and they post a little bit that gets me interested, then that's when I like them. Like, oh my god, this is a book that I need to pay attention to when it comes out. But if it's like already out in there, like, you know, I guess if I'm like reading it in like the back or like somebody posts it, that I'm not as interested. But I like it when like they're doing sneak peeks. If they put sneak peek on it and then they write it, then I'm hooked. So if you have like sneak peek part and you write it, then I'm like, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. I think that would kind of push me in for the blurbs.
So back to Mickey's question. That was one of my questions, and I think I said it. Tell us about book covers. How do you guys respond to book covers? Mickey is like,
to Mickey's point, yeah.
She's like, let me get in.
Yes, because what irritates me is when you're seeing the cover, so you're like, okay, you got this Idris Elba lookalike on the cover. Then you're in the book, and the guy's showing light skin tendencies, and you're like, bro, why are you acting like that? And then she describes him, and she's like, oh, and his caramel. What? They go back to the point. I'm like, that's not what the funny book looks like. And a lot of authors in African American literature or / urban literature do visuals. So they will write their books with a picture of who they have in mind, and then they will go scour the internet and like type in dark skin girl with gray eyes, let's just say, for example, and they'll find that picture, and then they'll put the pictures together on like a collage and put the character names under it. So it's, you know, and like we'll show them in book club, these are the visuals for the characters. And sometimes we'll go back and be like, no, I don't think this is who it should be. This is who I think it should be. So if the cover character is too far different,
What about you, Nia?
I agree. I don't want to see, like, when I go through phases and I do read romance. So like, if I read a romance and you got this, like, just like Nia said, I want the guy on the cover to be like, he's fit. And I hate when it's like, a guy, like I was reading this series a while back, and it was like all about these like nerdy people who were finding love, and so they had like sexy nerds, I guess you want to say, on the covers, but then you'd have like a redheaded guy with some black hair. Like, I just don't like it. Like, I just want it to match. And if you're not gonna do that, like if you're gonna have a romance and it's and you're not gonna match it, then just have a picture of a lake or something. Like, just have if you can't find someone that matches what's in your head, then I'd rather have a beautiful scene or something than have someone that's not who the book is about. Like, it's gotta match.
Okay, and Kat, did you speak to book covers already?
I did not. And for me, they don't have to match. They don't have to match. The book cover doesn't have to match what's in the story, because I do my own visuals when I read. Like, I imagine my own characters. Like, as long as they're fit and they look like hot in the cover, because that's what I gravitate towards when I pick a book. It's the cover and the synopsis. Like, those two like grab my attention. So when I'm looking through a bookstore and I see a hot man on the cover, I'm like, I pick it up and I turn it over and read it. And if the synopsis is something that's interesting to me, I buy the book. So, but they don't have to match in the story, because my own imagination comes up with things that I'm okay with if they don't match. But they just can't be too far-fetched.
Brooklyn,
that's how Kat got here, because all your covers, Brooklyn, are X-rated.
Let me just add, Urban Lit, it seems like they have like this one go-to book cover designer, because they all look generally the same.
Yeah. They all.
So when someone has one that's different and that's that can draw you in, then I would read it. So, like the book When My Soul Met a Thug, it has a different kind of cover. So that's another thing that pulled me in on that one as well. It's another book that's really good. It's called 3 a.m. But I kid you, like, no joke, I've been waiting 2 years for 4 a.m.
What I want to say, because Mickey has asked another question, and I teach this to people in my writing course. When it comes to book covers, it's an art and it's a science from the author's perspective. I cannot write, if I'm doing romance, there's a certain way that a cover must look. So, for example, my latest release was Metal Monkey, and then my first cover was really philosophical and traditional Japanese, and people weren't responding. But the minute I put a sexy Asian man with his shirt open and the muscle, one click, that's
Yep.
it. One click. So Mickey is asking, are you more drawn to covers with male models? For Mickey, from my experience as an author, your cover is really determined by your genre. And there's a level of research that has to go into that. You don't just, again, the cover isn't for you as the author, it's really for the reader. What do the readers in your genre expect? So for suspense, Janea, a sexy man on a suspense cover? No, they're more looking for like that scene, like the sunset and the ocean, somebody on a boat just sailing into nowhere because there's blood in the blood. So
So if
African American, they're looking for the bling, they're looking for the neon, they're looking for the platinum. So urban lit covers, they bling. And if you go on Amazon right now and look it up, you will see and click the bestseller, they all look alike. So there's a level of research that goes into covers. So just to kind of speak to that. So I'm gonna get ready to pull it in. You guys have given us so much, and I really like how, like, I had a list of questions, but you guys just really, your passion just came through and you took it and you just allowed us as authors to see what gets you excited, what you hate. So I'm really grateful. I tried to write some themes. A couple of the themes I got were research. As authors, we must research, making sure that what we write is geographically correct from a climate perspective, or even just, a logistics perspective. That stuff must be correct. Prologues. Some readers like them, some readers hate them. Based on most of us hate them. Most of the ones tonight hate them. Epilogue. Some readers like them, some readers hate them. We had Naomi who's like, I need an epilogue. We didn't get to talk about reverse harem. I probably need to do another live. We talked about blurbs. They can't be too long. Some people, the cover is trumps. Like if the cover catches them, then they'll flip. So these are some of the things that I took away. But you guys, as we close, what are some final words you want to say to authors from a reader's perspective? Go ahead, Kat.
I forgot to mention in romance is the timelines. Sometimes the timelines are all over the place. Or like they start, like they'll say one thing, like maybe he's like 27 here, and then the next he's like, his birthday, he's like 21 here. And it's like, what happened to what happened? So like just being consistent. I think that comes from like better reading and reading through your own work and making sure it's like the timelines match. Because I just read a book recently, it was like Urban Lit, and they talked about like celebrating his like 22nd birthday, but then like in the next like paragraph they mentioned like his 21st birthday or something. So it's like just being consistent with like the timelines and making sure it's all consistent throughout, or like the names change sometimes. I think it had to do with like editing and things like that, but just being like consistent. Even in romance, like sometimes the timelines don't match. Like maybe she's like, I don't know, about to be due in the first chapter, and then like she's like 6 months here or something like that. So just like being consistent, like it's really, for me as a reader, it's like I want to be happy. Like I don't want to be confused. Like I didn't read this to be confused.
Shout out to Mia. If you have a beta reader like Mia, that will never happen.
Yeah. Get you a Mia.
That speaks to the writing process. Like my process is I write, I self-edit, then I send to Mia. And Mia will catch it. Like, for example, one of my early books, and this is a joke we have all the time, my hero he was driving a Maybach. And he was so angry, he jumped in the Maybach and he jammed the keys in the ignition. And my alpha reader, Mia, was like, Maybachs don't have ignitions. They don't have keys. So this is the type of person that you need. Mia you will never have your character pregnant in chapter 1 and 6 months or about to be due.
Yeah.
You need a team that will catch stuff before you hit publish. So Mickey has a ton of questions. I just want you guys to wrap up for us, and then I'm going to throw Mickey's final question up. But you guys, what would you tell authors from a reader's perspective? What would you say in a sentence?
My sentence would be, don't be afraid of the feedback that's going to hurt your feelings, because that's going to stop the reviews from hurting your feelings later.
For me, it would be just like take your time with your writing. Like make sure you love what your words say. Like don't feel the pressures of like the readership. Like make sure you're happy with it before you put it out in the universe.
I'm writing that. I love that. Make sure
Yeah.
you love what the words say. I like that. What about you, Janelle?
I just think that if you're really passionate about it, it definitely comes across. So, but don't let your passion get away from you. Like, in the sense that it's okay for people to give you feedback and for it to be edited. Editing is awesome. Awesome.
This is Mickey's final question. How do you guys as readers feel about Insta love?
Insta as in Instagram or Insta as in fast?
Not that. Instagram.
Love with you. Like that instant love.
I'm gonna be honest. I actually really like that. Like, I feel like that's just me. I feel like that's more romantic. Like, I love that. I love it. It's like, and it's a moment, and then it's like, I love it.
Not Insta love, but I appreciate when books have that the characters identifying immediate chemistry.
Yeah.
I like that. It was something about him that made me want to, and when they can't really translate it, because that does happen in real life. Like there's something about this person that draws you to them, and then as the book evolves, you see exactly what it is about that person. Because I'm a believer in like how people move your spirit. So I believe that could be it. So I like it, Mickey.
I like it too. For me, I think it depends. Like I like it with the shorter books, like the short stories, because you don't have too much time to kind of do a drawn out like courtship. So like for those, I expect love at first sight to happen fairly quickly in the chapters. If there's like more chapters going on, then I kind of expect a long drawn out kind of like chemistry building. But with the short stories, I expect love at first sight and insta love.
Can I just say though, if it is instant love and it's like it comes out like really quickly, then the guy can't be like a jerk. Like that's
those are the best times though when they're kind of an asshole.
Be consistent. Like I hate when it's like instant love and then the guy turns out to be like a sociopath. Like it seems like he's like really, because that sucks. That sucks. He's gotta still be cool, like, no.
For me, and just kind of to answer Mickey from an author's perspective, I believe in insta love. I'm a romance author, but I think it's kind of like what Mia said. You have to validate the insta love. You have to make it more of a chemistry, and then roar it out over the course. But I have written a novella where there was insta love because I can only write this book in 80 pages max. But for me, the characters there had to be a full, you have to develop the characters. So what I did for that insta love scenario, Mickey, was I had set it up to where the guy had seen the girl before. He had met her online or seen her somewhere. So the minute he met her in the flesh, it was already established. So it looks insta to the reader, but it's been pre-established before chapter 1, if that makes sense. And then you kind of draw that out over the course of the story. So, Amisha has put this up. Thank you, Amisha, Brooklyn Light Enterprises. We did that commercial. If anybody has any questions about writing, Brooklyn Light Enterprises is ready, able, and willing to assist. But I want to thank all of these amazing readers for coming on tonight. I want to thank you for sharing your passion with us. It really did come off. At one point, I kind of had to just sit back and look because it's really gratifying to see. Like for me, like, you see the reviews on Amazon, but to like feel you guys' energy is just different. So I know I have appreciated my time spent with you guys, and I don't want to keep you any longer because we're just about 1.5 hours. And I told you guys, it's just an hour. And like, almost an hour and a half. So I thank you guys. If anybody has any questions, I think you can drop them in the comments on Facebook, and maybe these guys will scroll through and answer later. But thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Oh, let me play my theme music again. try to get good with that.
I was like, playing sex operator music.
It is.
And just to speak on that book I was talking about, it's called Buttons and Lace by Penelope Sky, and there's like 6 books.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Buttons and lace.
Buttons and Lace.
Is that like a stripper series?
No, no. It's a dark romance series.
I'm just dropping these in the comments. Some recommendations from you guys. Mia, who did you say?
Miguel is there. Fast. I'll
you
send it to you on WhatsApp.
Okay, or you can just go drop it in the comments after this.
Okay, and my still matter dog.
Yes, I wrote that down, but I'm gonna read that. Janelle, any recommendations you want to say before we leave?
Dorothy Coomson is like the bat. Oh gosh, everything she writes is amazing.
Yes, that's it. I mean,
that's cool. Oh, I like that.
Okay, that was very nice too.
Okay.
But so I would say Dorothy Coomson, especially the Rose Petal Beach and the Fran, and Dwayne Alexander Smith's 40 Acres, amazing. You won't be able to put it down. And Rachel Edwards' Darling, another amazing book. And Sandy Jones' The First Mistake.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. 344 reviews, 5-star. Wow.
She looks like she's moving fast.
So you guys go in the comments and drop those books so anybody looking later can grab them. But thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.